Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is the podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I am, as always, very happy to be with you to talk about books, and in particular to have an author interview on another Tuesday. So today I am speaking with author Kristina Rienzi about her new novel called Among Us. The subtitle is We Are Not Alone. So just in case that doesn't tell you what this is about, it is about, aliens in the universe and all those good UFO kind of conspiracy theories. Are they theories? The description of this is: danger lurks in the unknown. Marcy Simon lives a double life, conservative professor of English by day and controversial blogger of aliens by night. But when a classified document lands in her lap, her two worlds collide in an explosive revelation of shocking and deadly secrets. Despite imminent danger at every twist, Marcy embarks on an unstoppable quest to expose the terrifying truth. Only she never anticipated the entangled nebula of dark lies, nor the never-ending wormhole the government would spiral through to silence her forever. Knowledge can kill. And Marcy knows too much. With global security at risk, no one can be trusted. To debunk the stratosphere of deceit, Marcy races at the speed of light to escape the grips of the clandestine extraterrestrial security agency, ESA, hunting her before she vanishes like all the others. But Marcy is unique. Despite being the ESA's prime target, she's also the skeleton key to the deadliest truth in the history of the universe. The nightmare is real, and it's only just begun. Marcy must take a nefarious leap of faith before her options and her breaths evaporate into a black hole for all eternity. That is the description of Among Us by Kristina Rienzi. First off, I love all of the space references in that description on the back of the book. Lots of black holes, lots of, like nebula and all those great words. Also, extraterrestrial security agency apparently is very hard for me to say, which is why, it's just abbreviated ESA a lot in the book. But this is, a thriller. This is, I was going to say it's a bit of a mystery, but it's certainly something that Marcy has to figure out to get through. It's life and death, because once she discovers a certain level of information, then her very life is at danger. But as it says, she's different. Why she's different? Well, you'll have to read the book to find out. And she goes through a lot. You'd think that just blogging about aliens and then having this secret document fall into your lap would be enough, but no. She goes through a lot, and there are so many twists and turns and dangers and just various adventures, that Marcy goes through, and then the twist at the end, of course, that I, can't tell you because you have to read it and find out for yourself. But there's just, it's very twisty. And I was trying to think of space reference, and I'm sure that there is one, but off the top of my head, I am not coming up with it. All of those years watching Star Trek, and you'd think I'd be a Star Trek, Firefly, 800 million other different space shows between myself and what my husband watches. You'd think I'd be able to come up with a good analogy, and yet, no, my brain's like, no space analogy for you. So that's why I don't write the back of books. I do not write the blurbs because I apparently cannot come up with the right analogy at the correct time. I'm going to stop blathering. You're probably happy to hear that. And we are going to get to the interview with Kristina. Again, this book is called Among Us, and the author is Kristina Rienzi. So let's go ahead and get to that interview. Hi, Kristina. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
It is wonderful to have you here. We are here to talk about your book called Among Us. Before we get to the book, though, I'd love to get to know you a little bit. So if you could share something about yourself.
Sure. I'm actually a Jersey Shore girl. I'm a new adult thriller author, and I am a certified professional coach. Those are the main things about me. I'm also the former president of Sisters in Crime, which we'll talk about a little later, I think.
Yes.
And more recently, I'm a new mom. I have a 3-month-old little girl who's so sweet, and so I'm getting used to that life. I'm also a dog mom to 2 fur babies, and that's the main stuff to know.
The main stuff, so you're sleep deprived a little bit.
A little bit. She's good. She sleeps through the night, but it's a 24/7 on my head kind of responsibility I'm not used to, so I'm trying to get used to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, that's wonderful. But we're going to talk about your book, baby, today, and that it's called Among Us. So if you can give a bit of an overview of the book.
Sure. It's about a girl from the Jersey Shore, which shocking, right? And she lives a double life. She is an English professor by day and an alien blogger by night. And she kind of gets herself mixed up in a government conspiracy. And she has an agency after her, so she kind of gets herself mixed up in a plot that just is a little bit more dangerous than she expected.
Right. So what was your inspiration for the story?
I've always been interested in these types of stories, like these types of theories of government conspiracies and what could really be out there in the universe. And I love the shows like Unsealed Alien Files. I love The Unexplained. I love anything that's, paranormal or kind of otherworldly, even like Ancient Aliens. I love to just think about what could be, maybe what already is. And I also have a lot of family that's been in the military, so I always think about that, like what really goes on. And so it was kind of a combination of like secretive kind of government, military things that I think about like could be, as well as just what is possible in the universe.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much that happens in this book. I don't want to give things away, though. It's because there are a lot of layers, and there's the conspiracy aspect, and I don't want to do spoilers. But let's talk about the main character, Marcy. What about her do you think will resonate with readers?
I think she's the girl next door. She's kind of a normal girl who wants to fit in, like many of us do, just wants to live a normal life, but there's something deep inside of her that's stirring, and she feels is missing, in her day to day. And she's kind of, it's something that she feels is taboo and that people won't accept about her. And so she has this struggle to kind of blend in, with everybody and also kind of feed her passion for, what's, kind of taboo and not normal. And I think a lot of us go through that where we have this person we are on the outside, who we are at work, who we are to our friends and family, and then maybe like what we really believe or are passionate about that we're afraid to tell people, we're afraid we won't be accepted or maybe we won't fit in. But we have a passion for that, whatever it may be, and we struggle with that. I think a lot of us have two sides, and that's kind of what I wanted to show is that, normal girl who has an extraordinary belief in something that she wants to pursue, but is kind of struggling with allowing that out.
Mm-hmm. And she has, it definitely influences her relationships. There's some conversations with her mother. There's some issues with work, but she does have one person that she can talk to, and that's her neighbor. Coincidence that she ended up next to that neighbor, or
right?
The universe at work.
The universe, I think, of course, I'm going to say that. Yeah, and it's funny because there are obviously pieces of people that we, at least for me, there are pieces of people in my life, in the characters, of course, pieces of me as well, But I just love the relationship between her and Lou Rollins, who is a retired Army general. And, they're kind of like, they're friends, but he's like a fatherly figure, and just him appreciating her for who she is and trusting her with information. And that's kind of how the story gets going, is he trusts her with some top secret classified information. And he wants her to explore it further because he's kind of, that time has passed for him. That ship has sailed. And he knows that this is something that she will do right by. So I kind of liked that, to kind of come out of the blue, not really. I mean, of course, like I said, the universe at work, that they're neighbors, but certainly there's a friendship there that I wanted to develop throughout the story as well.
I'm going to jump in here so we can take our first break of the podcast. When we come back, a bit more about the relationship between Marcy and her neighbor, Lou, who could possibly be described as curmudgeonly, which is a great word. I love that word. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the backdoors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast. I am speaking today with Kristina Rienzi, author of Among Us, a thriller involving the possibility of aliens and the government conspiracies and curmudgeonly neighbors. So let's go ahead and get back to the interview with Kristina.
Actually, even from the very first encounter, you can tell they have this great relationship. He's the crotchety. They're different generations. They're different lines of work, but she knocks on his door and wakes him up, and he just makes her coffee. They have this great. This great relationship.
I love that about them. Yeah, they can talk about these things, and it's like she's pulling out in him what he needs, and he's pushing her where she needs to be. They're kind of helping each other, and also kind of, they see eye to eye most of the time, but there's that little bit of tension there, which is good too. And he's kind of her mentor character, I would call him in the book. So I like them together.
Yeah, you said that you are a fan of the alien type shows. So what kind of research did you do for the book?
So, it's scary research, but, I was trying to, it really is, it scared me. I took, just information. I would watch the shows. Obviously, I knew I wanted to write a book about this at some point. This is kind of something that's been weighing on me forever. I just love the idea of it. So, every time I would watch a show, I would take little notes here and there on different documents they would mention, or different time periods, or different places. And I started to look into those. For example, the Freedom of Information Act. With that, a lot of government documents were released into the public that had previously been classified. And so I looked into some of that came out. Project Blue Book, which, there's controversies around these documents. Are they real? Are they, made up? How much of it is true? But the idea behind it was really to look into information that was previously released by the government that was considered to be accurate and then maybe pulled back for some reason. Like there was information in the media that was pulled back because it upset people. So they said, oh no, that, wasn't a flying saucer. That was a weather balloon, for example, Roswell. But there are a lot of things that have gone on throughout the years like that, where we used to be very transparent with information and then it changed. And now it's like we don't talk about anything. So I tried to look into those pieces and figure out what facts I was comfortable, or what I thought might be facts, I was comfortable twisting into fiction for the purpose of the story, to help push the story forward and to just raise questions. And I think I did raise enough questions that I feel like, if I did, and I would like to have a continuation of this story. I think it ended in a place where you could, where
one of my questions.
Where I could explore some more, because there was so much kind of dropped in that was just little tidbits, and I think I could pick up on pieces of those and go down those roads. But there's a lot out there, and it, whether you believe it or not, or it's true or not, who knows? I mean, I have no idea, but I think that's the exciting part of it. It's like, what if this is true, or what could be? And there's a lot of obviously material in that for stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because at the again, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it does end in a way that I was like, I think there could be more here.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And I would love to explore those ideas further.
Yeah, because it would definitely take it in a different direction. Just the way it ends. So I'm hoping that the things that happen in your book are not real, because eek.
Me too. I was scared. It was funny. One of the research things I was doing, we have like a little, like we had the Ring doorbell, but like we had something ring the doorbell, and I was doing the research, and I'm looking on the camera, and there's nothing there, and I'm like, of course it could be a bird. It could have been whatever. Who knows? But I was freaking out, and I'm like, did I know what I'm looking like? Is someone stalking my internet search, and what's happening? Like, I got a little nervous.
No.
Like, what's going on? But it's funny. Like, I like to scare myself, and I think I write about things that scare me. And so that, like, I write about things I need to deal with, fear-wise. So yeah, I'm with you. I hope none of it's true. I hope it's all fake fiction.
But I can only imagine the paranoia, because you're writing about investigating or researching certain types of activities and the government getting involved, and I can just imagine the paranoia that could build up during that process.
It is. You can scare yourself for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned some autobiographical elements in the book. Is there anything specific that you put of yourself in there?
Yeah, so I think, I believe as an author, and all authors have pieces of themselves in each of the characters, because we're writing from a frame of reference only we have, and as much research as we can do and people in our lives we can pull from, the emotions that every character feels we've experienced. So for sure that's there. But specifically with Marcy, I would say, I'm a lot her in terms of, I have my day, by day business person that I am, and the person that I am, to the world. And then there, obviously things I think about that are crazy, because I'm a writer, and a lot of this stuff I write is dark. And so that, didactic personality piece is there for me. I'm also a Gemini, so that helps with that too. There's two of me. But obviously she lives at the Jersey Shore. I do love to explore the universe and wonder about all the things she wonders about. I also wish, the part that I wish was more me was her courage and her bravery to take on such an adventure. I don't know that I would do that. The things that I'm afraid of, I play out through my characters. So yeah, I want to be more like her and be able to say, I'm going on this adventure and I'm going to see where it takes me. And I don't know that that's me. Except to write about it. So yeah, and I think in every of the other characters, it's like when I'm angry, when I'm sad, when I'm, fearful, like those parts of their personality, even the bad characters, I try to put myself in their shoes. And so yeah, there are pieces of me inside that came out in them, but I don't know that I would, the things they do are kind of horrendous. I don't think I could ever do, but yeah, I surely think there's a little bit of me in every one of them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This is not your first book. Are there any of your other novels that you would like to highlight at this time?
Sure. I have the other stories briefly that I've written. I have Choosing Evil and Breaking Evil, which are paranormal thrillers, and all of my books are set at the Jersey Shore. Those books are themes on identity and evil, and just what is evil and what does that look like in mainstream today, with a paranormal element. I also have a novella, Luring Shadows, which I did as an anthology, as a multi-author novella series. So each book is a standalone. It's called the Happy Endings Resort series, but each book is different, but it's set at this Happy Endings Resort, which is a campground in South Carolina. So that's kind of fun and cool if anyone's interested in reading about the same location, but different authors writing in different genres. And then I also have a short story anthology and a short story in 30 Shades of Dead, which is a Sisters in Crime anthology. The one I want to highlight for right now is Winter Road, which is a story about which hopefully none of us can relate to, but many people can, about just a relationship gone wrong and an ex that wants to be a part of the main character's life and kind of does so in a deadly way, a cat and mouse game at Christmas, which is coming up. So Winter Road I wrote a few years ago. However, I just turned it into an audiobook, and Audible is Among Us is also an audiobook. And so I love the audiobook, just the way that a story plays out in audio form. And so I'm really excited about that. And the narrator for Winter Road is Chris Shula, who is a seasoned actor. He's done audiobooks for a long time, and he actually works with Audible quite often. He was in, we did an education series. I did an education series with Audible and ACX University back in 2018 for Among Us, and he was the narrator that was in that series, was in that video, and so he did Winter Road for me. So, which I loved that because I loved his style. He did a perfect thriller, holiday thriller, I call it, and that just came out October 31st. So that's kind of my latest.
Oh, nice! I love audiobooks. So
yeah, me too.
Wonderful.
Let's take our second break of the podcast now, and when we come back, Kristina will be talking about Sisters in Crime, which she mentioned at the beginning in her bio. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and the last segment of my interview with Kristina Rienzi. Her book is called Among Us, and let's go ahead and get back to that interview.
You mentioned when you were describing yourself at the beginning, Sisters in Crime. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So Sisters in Crime is a writing organization for mystery writers. It covers all the mystery genres: mystery, thriller, suspense, cozy mystery, police procedural, all of those. It's a global organization. It has more than 3,600 members and 50 chapters worldwide. But it was originally started and still is dedicated to promoting the advancement, recognition, and professional development of women crime writers. Although we do have crime writers of all stripes, it's not just for women, but that's how it was started. About 30 so years ago. It was founded by a handful of women mystery writers who weren't being reviewed. They weren't, being nominated for awards as much as others were, as much as their male counterparts in Mystery Writers of America. So they decided they wanted to start this organization. So it's really, I found having a writer group as a writer is a wonderful way to both be motivated, get advice, and see, get information to how to, write better, just, be a part of a social group, have support, and also access to different presenters. And I know for Sisters in Crime Central New Jersey, which was where I was a president of for 2 years, 2 years ago, I ended in 2018, we have such great presenters. They're both for readers and writers. So if readers are interested in true crime or mystery writing, they're always welcome. It's one of the few organizations where readers are welcome as well, readers and writers. And it's just a great organization. And I encourage anyone who's considering writing, who has a love for mystery, to join a local Sisters in Crime chapter. And, it's a wonderful way to get together with people who you share interests with.
And is there a website? How do people find their local chapter?
Yeah, so it's just sistersincrime.org would be where you would go, and then you could look up, the chapters there, local chapters there, to see where, you might, you can go for free the first time and check it out before you actually join, and decide, if it's something for you. But I know, for example, every month we have a different presenter, and we have had forensic analysts, we've had crime scene investigators, we've had handwriting analysts. We've had local cops and EMTs, talk about what happens in an emergency. We've done so much, really to help the writers write a story that's authentic and, and ask questions that they need to ask, but also readers who are intrigued by this genre. It's very interesting for them. So I think it's a great organization. I definitely, if you're interested, look into that, sistersincrime.org.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Are you working on anything right now in terms of writing?
I am. It's funny. I have 3 stories I'm bouncing around between, and I'm doing NaNoWriMo, which can drive you a little crazy as a writer. It's 50,000 words in a month, write a novel a month, and I've started.
It's only day 2. Are you crazy already?
Oh my God, I'm crazy already because I'm worried. I'm with a baby. I'm like, oh my God, I'm already crazy. Because I'm like, I didn't hit my word count, or sometimes you go over it. I usually go over in the beginning, and then I am halfway through, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. But yeah, it's so right now the one I want to finish because I've gotten a great start with it, and I just want to finish. It's the one I'm focusing on. It's called Unleash the Wicked, and it's a paranormal thriller, and it's about a former New York City socialite who is forced to move back home, and she lives in kind of a mysterious beach town at the Jersey Shore. Shocking, right? And in this story, her tragic and mystical past catches up with her. So she's forced to face all of her demons. And so I'm writing that now, and I have 2 others that I'm working on as well, but I want to get this done during Nano, at least the first draft, and then I'll get back to the other 2 that are started. That's what happens with writing. We have so many ideas. I have a list of stories I want to write, and literally just topics, I have, and I have an idea, I write it down, I put it in a file, and then I bounce around, and getting focused is something that's really important to stay on track with a story and write it from beginning to end, because you can get distracted. But that's what I'm trying to do now, is just finish this one during Nano.
Well, I wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
And then, so when did you start writing? Is it something that you've always wanted to pursue?
It's funny, I have. If you look at, I was looking through my old stuff, when you're a kid, and everything says I want to be an author, I want to write stories, and I have all my old stories when you're little, and they're just ridiculous, But surprisingly, and again, I want everybody to know, I grew up in a very loving home. I was an only child. I wasn't, I was spoiled with love, not a brat, but spoiled with love. I grew up in a very good home, wonderful parents, raised me like I couldn't ask for better parents. But my stories were all mystery, thriller, horror, crazy, right? Even in 5th grade, I won an award for a short story that I wrote about a cursed medallion, okay, in 5th grade. So I've had this darkness inside of me a long time. But so I've been writing all my life. And then I think it was about 2010, literally, it's I don't know if anybody's read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, but anybody who's a creative in any way, shape, or form should read this book, because it's so true how things just come to you and then you have to follow them. And literally in 2010, it was almost like a thought came in my head, a thought flew through my mind that said, you need to write a book. It's time to write a book. And I hadn't written in years. You go through life and you work and you just go through life. And it was not on my mind. I hadn't written fiction in years. And I'm like, I need to write a book. And my husband, who didn't even know I wrote, was like, what? Where's this coming from? But I really started out like that. And I said, no, I really need to write fiction. This is what I need to do. I hadn't done it in forever. So I joined a local writer group, started with short stories, which I love, and I'll continue. That's where I get my most joy, starts with a short story. And led up to Choosing Evil, which was picked up by a publisher in 2014. So 4 years, short years later, I say that because in the writing world, things take forever. So I felt very blessed with that. And then it's been my goal, no matter what, to write, something at least one story a year, if not more. But I just, no matter what comes in my life, what happens in my life, I write. It might not be every day, and it might not be publishing something all the time, but writing is a part of my life every day in some way, shape, or form. That's a commitment I've made to myself.
Okay. Out of your experience, then, do you have advice for aspiring authors?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest piece of advice, if writing is something you truly have a passion for, you're not just like, I'm going to write a story because I want to make money, because we all know how that goes. Very hard. It's a very difficult business, but it's a very rewarding business. I would say never give up. Very few people have instant success. I mean, it does happen, but it's like the 1%, maybe less than even 1% of us. I think it's really important to learn your craft, to keep learning your craft, if that means you take a class or you talk to other writers, you get people to read your work, edit your work. Writing to the best of your ability is really important because you want to do a good job by your readers. And keeping a support network of writers. You need somebody to encourage you, to be there for each other, to go to writing events together. It's really important. Writing can be very lonely. It can be very much in your head, and having friends to share that with is really important. And then I would just say, just write, just sit down. Don't worry about outlining. Don't worry about, this stuff. I mean, yeah, you want to, like I said, keep up with your craft and have your friends and do all the social media stuff, and that's great, but write as much as you can and read as much as you can. And most importantly, don't give up. If it's something you want in your life, you've got to go for it, and you just got to keep going for it, no matter how hard it is. I mean, that's. I would just say, just keep doing that, because it is the reward. The reward is the book, and anybody can. If you have a passion for it, you can get to the end of a book, to write the end, and so I would say just keep going with it.
All right, thank you so much for that. When you take the time to read, do you have favorite authors or genres?
I love everything, but I tend to lean toward what I write, which is the thriller, suspense, mystery. I also love horror and paranormal. And then I also love women's fiction. Women's fiction is something that I truly enjoy. And I do a lot of nonfiction, self-help, development, motivational. That's like a lot of what I have on Audible. Authors specifically that I go back to time and time again are Jodi Picoult, who's more of your women's fiction genre. Lisa Gardner is your suspense. Lisa Scottolini, same thing, suspense. I love her. And of course I love Stephen King. He's just, as somebody who likes to explore the unknown and the wild, he certainly does a good job of writing those stories. So I'm always, kind of following him. But yeah, I mean, I think as a writer, I really love like hearing all different kinds of stories and how they're told. And any genre, and if someone says this is a good book and I haven't, historical fiction, I don't read as much of, but there have been a few that I've loved. So, I just go for what pulls me, what story pulls me.
Mm-hmm. And your baby's 3 months old. Are you reading with her?
Yes, and it's so funny. I didn't know when to start. And my sister-in-law has 4 kids, and she said, just start right away. So literally at like a few weeks old, I've been reading her stories. And, I don't know, she obviously doesn't know what's happening, but I'm reading her, whatever I can get my hands on. And it was fun to go back and find the books that brought me joy when I was a kid. Like, I love, it's a silly book, but it's a Sesame Street book, The Monster at the End of this book. And after I realized that's one of my favorite books, I'm like, of course, here's where my thriller, scary, comes from. I love that book. And I was so happy when it came in the mail from Amazon and I got to read it to her because I couldn't find my original copy. But I have an original copy of my book, Popcorn, which is very cute and funny, about a kid who has a party when his parents leave and he makes popcorn and it fills the house and it's just a mess. But it's just so cute. I'm reading her my favorite stories has been fun, but I'm also discovering new ones. And, she enjoys it. Like, you can tell she doesn't know what I'm saying, but she just likes the sound of my voice. So it's kind of
right.
fun.
Right. Well, my dad's a librarian, and he's always talking about, start reading to your kids as soon as they're born. So in honor of my dad, I had to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I didn't know. I'm like, I should wait. And everyone's like, don't wait for anything. Just read. So they love your voice. So you just talk. Whatever you're saying, they're happy to hear. And I think it's language development. They learn most from what you're saying to them. So I narrate. If I'm home with her, I narrate my day to her. I tell her everything I'm doing. I'm picking this up. I'm doing this. This is a pen. This is what color it is. Like, I literally talk constantly because I think that's how they absorb and learn.
Absolutely, yeah, building the vocabulary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned the Sisters in Crime website, but I know you have a website, so give us that address and also where people can find you on social media.
Sure. So it's my first and last name. So it's KristinaRienzi.com. It's Kristina with a K and Rienzi, RIENZI.com. I hang out on Instagram and Facebook mostly. I do tweet from time to time. On Facebook, I have a few groups as well. I have a reader group, which is called Rienzi Rebels. I do giveaways there and just fun stuff. And then I also have a writer group, a writer coaching kind of group. If there's writers out there that just want inspiration and just, I share information and I just try to motivate us. And it's called Write Life. So yeah, between my reading, writing, coaching, I try to just be everywhere I can be, but with a baby, it's I'm oh, I haven't posted in a few days. You just do the best you can. So, but I'd love to connect.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to highlight at this point? I think the only thing I like to say to everyone is, if you look at any of my pages or anything, you'll see the term embrace the unknown. And, I think there's a theme to all my stories. There's a theme to just the way I try to live life. And it's about overcoming my fears, about getting the courage to go through whatever is scary and unknown in life. And so I try to do that through my stories. I try to inspire people in life every day, no matter how dark my stories are. If you read them, you're like, where did she, I met her and she's nothing like this. I really try to present, a very happy, positive person in life who believes in her dreams. I believe in hard work and just being kind. I think those are really important. And those are the things that are going to help you be successful and live your best life. And I just encourage, people, if you're, if you're not alone in anything you're going through. And I think reading anybody's books, certainly with mine, I try to have an inspirational element in there, overcoming fear, but, just go, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. And I think escaping into a story, going into a book, just going into another character's mind and experiencing life through them, it can be cathartic. And so that's why I believe in so much in reading, and certainly so much in writing. And any writer out there, if you have a story to share, somebody needs to read it. I think that we all can benefit from that in this crazy world, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you also, Kristina, for joining me to talk about your book, Among Us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It was so much fun.
Once again, thank you to Kristina for taking the time to talk to me about Among Us. As I mentioned in the interview, I'm really hoping that the things in this book aren't true, because eek. That's what makes a good thriller, when you start thinking, what if this were to actually happen? And I don't want to think about what if this were to actually happen, because yes, you have to read it to find out. It just, the level of eekitude that comes from what Marcy finds out. So yes, I did just say eekitude, and I may or may not have made that up. I know, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's ever said that. I just threw that out there, so I can't say that I made it up, but it's not a real word. Except here on this podcast where we make up words. So thank you to Kristina. Thank you, as always, to you, my listeners, for putting up with my making up of words and general silliness. Thank you so much for always hanging out with me and being fellow book lovers, because what better a club could there be than to be in the book lovers club? I cannot say that, apparently. So thank you, as always, to you. If you are a fan of this podcast, if you could go ahead and do me the great favor of subscribing to it, of following us on social media, liking posts, sharing posts, commenting, doing all those wonderful things that help a blogger out in this world of the internet. I would greatly appreciate it if you also feel like giving us a a lovely review, I would greatly appreciate that as well. If you're in the mood to give us a not so lovely review, well, that's obviously your decision and prerogative, but I would really appreciate a lovely 5-star review if you have it in you. So, my husband listens to the Bomani Jones podcast. He has a couple of podcasts, but he always says, if you only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. I don't know if I'll go that far, but I just will say that I would appreciate a nice review if you would like to give us one. So thank you, as always, for joining me for this podcast. Join me again on Friday, and we'll talk more books. In the meantime, hope you're having a wonderful week. Hope that wonderful week continues, and I hope that week involves plenty of time to go out and get yourself lost in a good book. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.